Well, Deanna, thanks for taking a few minutes to connect with us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So here's what I want to know is I want to know, first of all, just the history of how you got connected at Westwood. How did you come to be part of the church family?
We moved from Indiana last June
Okay.
because our three kids all live out here, and Jim just retired. So we found a place to live uh, in Culver City and asked Tim and Katie Hooten, who Katie's our daughter,
Okay.
uh, what about their church? And we had actually visited on a couple of trips out here.
Okay.
So we began coming to Westwood because they are at Westwood.
That's great. And so when you had visited before and gotten a flavor for it, how would you describe Westwood to someone who perhaps has never been to the church or been a part of it?
It's a friendly group of people. They are interested in outreach. I noticed in the worship guide, even when we were visiting, there are a lot of opportunities to connect to the community for service projects or to get involved even within the church. So that appealed to me. We came from a church that was similar. And so I would say anybody interested in Westwood, there are options even within the congregation. The Loft is a wonderful group of people worshiping in more of a contemporary, non-traditional way with a lot of conversation and good, meaningful dialogue. And then the traditional sanctuary worship is mostly where we go, and somebody who responds to that and that has a lot of meaning for them, they can find that too. But there's a lot of fellowship opportunities for the two groups. So you feel like you're a part of all one big friendly group that has a purpose.
That's great. That's great. That's a great description. I love it. So, how did you first get involved once you started attending? Now, my understanding is you're what's called the Sunday school superintendent. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I have that a title, but
Okay.
I work with Bo Sanders,
Okay.
and he has asked me to help with managing what happens on Sunday morning for the children and to choose what we will do. Uh, I'm really not doing that for the preschool children,
Mm-hmm.
but just for the elementary age kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I know well, I got involved because he asked me. There was someone already doing this work, but she was married to someone who had taken a job in San Diego, so was moving.
Okay.
It was just about the time we were coming here. It was in the fall after we'd sort of gotten settled. So it worked out fine because I have a background in early childhood education and working with children in the elementary grades. So I was very involved in my church back in Indiana, and I was really glad to have some way to give back here. And that's been very meaningful to me. So I really like it.
Good. Good. When you got involved in the very beginning, I'm sure you're trying to get your feet wet and all of that. But what are some of the things that you are doing on a weekly basis? You're overseeing. You're working with the curriculum. Give me a picture of exactly what you're up to.
Okay. We have three age levels. I am planning each week what each group will do in their classrooms. We work with a curriculum, and I choose from that curriculum, which has many choices in it. We have a limited amount of time because the kids go to the sanctuary for worship, or if their parents are in the loft worship, they either are in the loft or they come early and we have activities for them. So really 15 minutes into the hour is when we all get together have a Bible story, and then we go to our classes and have a response to the story in some kind of art response or that kind of thing, and that's about it. But I sometimes go into the classes to be the teacher when we're short of a person, which I really love. I have been involved in a ministry in the past in leadership, in storytelling, and I've loved it. And this gives me an opportunity to actually be with the children, not just plan stuff and wonder what happened.
Sure.
I like to try to talk to the teachers afterwards to get feedback on what has, if the plan worked and what didn't work and what shall we change. The challenge is many of the Sundays we have different people each time, but we have basically the same people that take turns being in there once or twice a month. Our teacher for the older group is usually there every Sunday, so it varies what the experience would be. But I hope to keep the children in a meaningful, engaged in a meaningful kind of activity, so that we can see some faith development blossoming. So it's just a beginning. I just feel like I'm just beginning.
Yeah, that's great.
So we'll see.
That's great.
Actually, I had to ask some kids their names last week. That's how new I feel.
Okay.
But when I'm not in the classrooms with them, it's a little more difficult to feel like you know them. So.
Right. What you said early on that this is very meaningful for you. Tell me why it's meaningful.
Well, passing along the faith is really important to me. I was involved in a program called Godly Play, which Jerome Berryman has authored and trained hundreds of people in many different kinds of churches, really in many countries now. But it's basically focusing on the story and helping the children reflect on it and then respond in some way with art or playing with the story themselves. A lot of three-dimensional things that the kids can tell stories with. I love that part, but the most important part I loved was the wondering with the children, the reflecting on the story, and asking, what did you like about the story? Or I wonder what the most important part of the story is. And then where are you in the story? Or what part of the story is about you? So those kinds of things make me feel like I have experienced it too. I've worshiped. We used to have a program when you take them out of worship. The kids leave the main worship and come down, and all the leaders who were with them, of course, would not be in the sanctuary,
right.
Wherever. And people would say to me, "Oh, I'm sorry you had to miss the worship today." I said, "Oh, no, I worshiped." It's very meaningful to me because the kids are very transparent. They wonder about things, existential issues that everybody wonders about at just a different level. So anyway, that gives me a lot of meaning to feel like I'm making a difference in their faith development. And they're just delightful. I just think children are delightful.
That's great. Are there ways that people can get involved with you in terms of helping or teaching? Are there opportunities for that?
I think there are a lot of opportunities because we do need volunteers every week. And I'm there to help facilitate the plan. And many of our volunteers, some of them are parents, and that's great. And I think that's a real helpful thing, that more children are coming into our congregation just in this last year. And I think it's helpful for the children to see their parents involved once in a while with them in this faith community. If they feel drawn to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we don't have parent signups where you have to volunteer a certain
Mm-hmm.
number, but I think once a month, if somebody wants to volunteer with the children's ministry, the kids benefit, and I think the people that are there, if they really want to be there, feel like they have benefited also. So.
Yeah, it sounds like from your experience, of course, they would. Yeah. And you would have, you'll help them get connected or involved or know what to do. They won't be floundering around, I'm assuming. You'll.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I would help. I think they have to start with, well, they could start by talking to me. I'm there almost every Sunday morning. I say that now but I'm gone for 2 weeks. We're going back to Indiana to check up on the people there.
Okay.
But, and then I can help them get connected because the folks on the staff in the office help call people and schedule people. And I haven't really done much of that. But when somebody is signed up, I'm happy to fill them in and help them know, how to go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one last question for you.
Excuse me.
No
Go ahead.
worries. As you think about a child coming through Westwood's Sunday school program and going from kind of the preschool and beginning to learn more and more, and then as they transition to middle school, by they're in that fifth, sixth grade level, where would you ideally love to see them in their faith journey? What are some markers or indicators that maybe you would go, yeah, that's exciting. I'm really glad to see they're at that place. What are some of those markers you would say?
Well, as you talk to kids, I think if they make connections of what they're hearing at church and what they're able and what they hear in the community, how they're going to respond. Do they get pretty engaged? I've seen the youth talk about some of the political stuff or issues with the homeless and other issues that we as a church have talked about, where they feel more when they start to express their real concern and volunteer to do something. I think that's important. When we sit in a circle and have prayer and they actually express some heartfelt things, I feel like we can see that meaning growing in their in the way they express themselves. Is that the kind of thing you?
No, that's beautiful. Yeah. So I hear you basically saying that they are.
I'm sorry.
Able to engage with issues. They're somehow connecting their faith to what's happening around them, and able to either talk about it or express questions, concerns, whatever. And then I also hear you saying that they take action in some way, whether it's a social justice issue or some sort of concern, that they're able to. There's something going on in the heart and the head, but then they're connecting that through action somehow. That's kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I think connecting and doing this with a multi-age group is pretty important. I talked to one of the teachers just last week, and she was saying, with all these service opportunities that our curriculum suggests, or that sometimes we hear in church, if we count on the children alone to respond, they don't have the ability or the focus to do that. But if they are connected to adults or older people who express the interest also, then I think that's a lot more meaningful. It's like being in a big family rather than asking kids just to bring something for the homeless. If they see that our congregation has a strategy for doing that, and that sort of thing, it helps.
Yeah, they're all part of a family, not just their own nuclear family, but the broader family of God. Yeah, that's great. Well, Dina, thank you for taking time, letting people get to know you a little bit more.
Thank
And
you. Thank you
yeah.
very much for asking.